The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, Lamar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. We're coming to you from our studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Worldwide toll-free 1-800-610-7035. Email xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. On MSN Messenger, xzoneradiotv@hotmail.com. And our website, www.xzoneradiotv.com. Don't forget, X-Zone Nation, you can always go and listen to our archives by simply going to xzonepodcast.com. They're there with our compliments and the compliments of the advertisers and the X-Zone family. My guest this hour is Robert Lamar. We've had the pleasure of having Robert on the show many times. It's always a great pleasure speaking to him. Robert is located in Nova Scotia, Canada. And Robert makes the impossible seem possible. And that's been his objective for over 30 years. Billed as a psychological illusionist, Robert combines elements from the science of psychology, the art of suggestion, and the world of deception to create effects that make it seem like he can actually tap into the hidden thoughts, or even force thoughts into the minds of his audience and members. As the opening to his stage show states, be prepared to have your reality shattered as you enter Robert Lamar's Theater of the Mind. His website, www.robertlamar.ca. That's ROBERTLAMAR.ca. And joining me from the beautiful east coast of Canada, province of Nova Scotia, is Robert Lamar. Robert, welcome back to the X-Zone.
Well, thank you very much for having me back. I really appreciate it. How have you been?
You know, if I felt any better, I'd actually go to Queen's Park in Toronto, and I'd find the Minister of Health and give her back my OHIP medical card.
Well, that's good then. That's good.
Yes, but I forgot to say wrapped around a jar of Vaseline, but we won't get into that right now. So how have you been, and what's new in the world of magic?
What's new in the world of magic? Well, I think the last time we talked, which was about a year ago, that was about a time that I was just deciding to get back into performing full-time.
Yeah.
I never gave it up, but I decided about 11 years ago that I didn't want to travel. I wanted to stay home with my kids while they were young and experience them. And now my kids have grown. My son graduated from high school last year. My daughter is in her final year this year. So we decided last year that now is the time to kind of prepare to get back into things full time. I've still continued to perform over the past 11 years, but it's just been at my choosing, and I really didn't want to travel any great distances either. So just looking forward to getting back into doing what I am.
Tell me, Robert, if I was to ask you, one of your children, what it was like having a magician for a father, what would they say, or an illusionist?
It's funny when they were younger. I think they thought it was really cool, and of course, when their friends would come over to play, they always wanted to see magic. Yeah. But when they got older, I kind of got the eyes looking up.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, Dad, please. But they both actually, when they were younger, they had a real interest in magic, and they both had performed some shows, just doing one or two tricks at various events, and they only did it each a couple times. But the interest never stayed with them, and I certainly never forced it upon them. And to this day, neither of them actually do any magic.
Wow. You know, come allowance day, did you always take the quarters out of their ears, or did you actually go into the wallet?
No, I would have got that look.
Hey, Robert, it's great having you with us back here in the X Zone after such a long time. Stand by. You and I have to take a 2-minute commercial break. When we come back, X Zone Nation, we're going to be delving into the magic of Robert Lamar. Once again, his website is www.robertlamar.ca, RobertLamar.ca. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone, a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. And Robert and I will be back on the other side of this 2-minute commercial break as we continue from Eastern Canada, but not as far east as Robert is. We're in Ontario, Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. We'll be back. Don't go away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365. Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies.
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows.
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Justina Marsh, and with my dad Pete, we are going to present a new show called Too Good to Be True. Together, we are aiming to discover more truths about this world and beyond. Do you have unanswered questions about the world? Do you ever wonder about aliens, conspiracy theories, or the universe? There are many shows discussing subjects such as pyramids or UFOs, but we want to relay this information based on our own research, including from spiritual means. Hopefully, listeners will be helped with their own beliefs and will appreciate the psychic insights that add to the previous research and information. We both look forward to sharing this insight and beginning this journey with our listeners. Visit xzbn.net for more information about when to listen.
And welcome back, everyone. Robert Lamar is my guest, www.robertlamar.ca. And Robert, how long have you been involved in the conjuring arts, and how did you get started?
Oh, it's actually coming up to, I guess in total it's actually over 40 years.
Wow.
I was first introduced to it when I was 5. I don't think my story is any different than a lot of people that are in this particular art form. Mm-hmm. But I had a friend of mine's father that made a coin disappear, and he found it behind my ear. And I subsequently found out that he was not a magician, and he knew no sleight of hand, so I'm sure what he did was something really simple. But the thing was that it fooled me, and it really captured my imagination. And it just so happened that year they were advertising on television 2 products. It was a TV Magic kit and TV Magic cards. And I can still remember the commercial for the TV Magic cards. It was just a pair of hands that filled the TV screen. Of course, this is back. It was black and white. Mm-hmm. And it was the hands were holding a deck of playing cards with the face of the cards facing towards the viewers at home. and they simply flipped through the cards to show that all the cards were different, and the face card was the ace of spades. Well, they gathered up the cards, they flipped through the cards a second time, and then all the cards had magically turned to the ace of spades. And that Christmas, I had received both the magic kit and the magic cards, probably like tens of thousands of other youngsters throughout North America. The only difference is that my magic kit and magic cards didn't end up under my bed or in my closet or thrown in my dresser somewhere after a period of time, but I actually played with them, tried to learn the tricks, and the interest kind of developed from there.
Wow. You and I have talked before, and you actually worked with the Great Ravine.
Haven't worked with him.
Oh, or mentored by him? He was your inspiration?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I saw Ravine when I was 12. We were living in Moncton, New Brunswick, which is also on the east coast of Canada.
Beautiful place.
And I saw Ravine's concert. And for those that may not know who Ravine is, Ravine originally hails from Australia. And he had a stage hypnosis show that was unlike any other type of show along that lines that had ever been seen before, especially here. And he was very, very successful in Canada. In fact, he was a household name, and he toured successfully for 35 years. And it would take him 2 years to do the Canadian circuit because he was in such demand. For example, when he came to Halifax, we have a kind of a small to medium-sized theater. It's about 1,041 seats. And he would sell that out 2.5 weeks to 3 weeks solid.
Wow.
And that was every single time he came here. And this is just one theater out of how many that are in Canada. And when I first saw him at 12, it just blew me away. Now, I had been involved in magic for about 7 years up to that point in time, and I'd never seen anything like what he was doing. And I was really interested. And I'd gone to school the next day in the library to see if there was any books at all on hypnosis. They did have one book, but I couldn't understand at all. But it was just over my head. It was too complex at that point in time. So my interest kind of waned in that area. And then we moved to Halifax, where I presently reside. And I saw him again. Now, this was back when I was in high school. And that time when I saw him, I just fell in love with his persona on stage, with what he was doing, that type of show. And again, made a trip to the library, found a couple books on the topic, was able to understand what was being said, and basically started practicing on my friends. And it kind of went from there. So it was a hobby for a long time until I took it seriously, which wasn't back in the mid-90s.
We seem to be having a problem with your audio, Robert. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Just let me...
Okay.
Oh, sorry. That was a call that was coming in. My apologies.
Gotcha. Why do you think so many people are interested in the kind of show that Ravine had made so popular?
Well, I think a big part of it, number one, was just the man himself. I mean, if you don't have a strong entertainer, it doesn't matter what the show is, people aren't going to be as engrossed, and he was a phenomenal showman. Having said that, though, the type of show is one where Ravine himself really isn't the star of the show. He's more or less the director. And through suggestion, he creates various scenes with the volunteers. So the stars of the show are actually the volunteers in the audience that are participating in the show itself. And the people in the audience that are watching, they see their friends, they see their family members, perhaps their neighbors or what have you, up on stage. And it just makes the show very, very unique in that sense. There's really no other type of show that's like it. The closest would be might be an improv type show. But other than that, there's really not another show like a stage hypnosis show. And Ravine, as a performer, was just very, very strong showman.
Now, how did you also develop your interest into the paranormal? Was this a natural spur-off from magic?
Very much so. Scholastic books, which is still in existence to this day, back when I was in school. I was always allowed to order one book a month when that flyer came out,
Oh, gosh,
and
yeah.
I just gravitated towards books that dealt with ghost stories. And in fact, I still have a couple of the books from them. I have quite a library at home here, and I think one of the books, if I remember correctly, is called Monsters Among Us, and I don't recall the author. But there was a section in the middle that had a number of black and white photographs, and I was just always fascinated at looking at, whether it was an alien, a supposed alien, or a monster, or a UFO, or what have you, and always wondered, is that stuff real? Like, it would be so cool if it was real. And of course, with Harry Houdini being as popular as he is in magic, I mean, he spent the latter part of his career really looking into this whole area, and particularly with dealing with spiritualists. So it was just it was a natural progression. And when I was introduced actually to your show back a number of years ago, a friend of mine had mentioned that your show was on one of our local radio stations. I couldn't believe it, and I was just hooked. I was fascinated with listening to the callers. And in all fairness, I tend not to believe in a lot of what people are saying or claims that they're making, but I still have to this day. I'm just have a huge interest, and I'm vastly fascinated with the subject matter.
So would you say you're a believer or a skeptic?
No, definitely a skeptic. And I know that's a thorn in the side of a lot of people, but I don't believe things just because somebody says that they may have had an experience or they may have seen something. Now, I don't say that they didn't experience something or they didn't see something, but I would question exactly what they experienced or what they've seen. In the years that have passed here, in the past 150 years or so, especially with psychic research, there really hasn't been yet any solid evidence for the existence of such abilities. Now, does it mean that the abilities don't exist? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It just means that there hasn't really been any concrete evidence of such. But I think it's still worthwhile, looking and experimenting, using the scientific method to see if these things exist. Case in point, going back to your... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to ask you, is there a connection between the paranormal and magic?
Well, definitely. There's a realm in magic which is known as, technically we call mentalism. And within mentalism, it is a form of magic, but most mentalists will never use the word magic. But what it is, it's a field where everything that is done, it makes it appear that the performer is reading a person's mind or performing other psychic abilities like telekinesis, teleportation, etc. Now, what they're utilizing are tricks, and that's a big debate within the magic community. Some mentalists, when they perform, they kind of make the overt claim that what they're doing is genuine, and some people feel that's crossing the line, whereas there's other mentalists that go to the other extreme, and they say right out front that what they do, there's no psychic ability whatsoever. Everything they're doing, it can be easily explained through tricks that are based in science and deception and what have you. So it depends where you fall within that spectrum. Probably going to the other extreme of somebody that's claiming that what they were doing was real. A good example, a real-life example, would be Uri Geller from back in the 70s. He caused quite a stir in the world with his supposed abilities. What's interesting is just in the past couple of years, he's been hinting at that what he's been doing over the years has actually just been tricks.
Wow.
And what people don't realize is that he was actually a magician in Israel before he had left. He actually did magic shows.
Interesting, really interesting. You know what? I don't think there are a lot of people who actually, besides yourself, Robert, that I've talked to who make a connection between the both.
Well, it's just Doug Henning had a great way of explaining what magic is. He said, magic is making the impossible seem possible, making the unreal seem real, making the improbable seem probable. Yeah. And that's what magic is. So if we delve into, for example, say ghosts. Back at the turn of the century, ghost shows were very, very popular in the days of vaudeville, where magicians on stage would actually try to recreate a ghost appearing on stage. So there's just an automatic tie-in. That's where the routine, which is called second sight or mind reading, that came from back in the 1800s, when people were actually, first of all, claiming they could read people's minds, and that's when the study of telepathy began as well.
All right, Robert, stand by, my friend. You and I have to take our commercial, and we'll be back after the news. My special guest this hour is Robert Lamar, and his website is www.robertlamar.ca. My name is Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, Rob McConnell here, and I wanted to spend a moment on internet streaming. Everybody has heard about internet streaming, but not many know much about it. Did you know the internet streams just about everything?
Movies,
From new releases to old classics.
TV shows,
Almost every show, every episode, and much more. But the question has always been, how do you do it? Well now, thanks to the folks at 123 Ready TV, I have the answer for you. They have developed a simple program app, 123 Ready TV, that you install on your Windows PC, Android smartphone, or Android tablet that can have you streaming like a pro in less than 5 minutes. You truly won't believe how much is available or how easy it is to do until you try. And for a one-time cost of only $19.99, this product is a real winner. To learn more about 123 Ready TV, visit our website at www.xzbn.net. By phone is Robert Lamar. His website is www.robertlamar.ca. And Robert, before we went to the commercial break, we were talking about magic, the paranormal, and vaudeville. Why do what was the catalyst for what seems to be a sudden surge in the quest of the paranormal at that time?
I think one of the biggest things was spiritualism really grew out of the 1800s into the turn of the century into the 1900s. Big reason for that is at the end of World War I, there were a lot of people that lost loved ones during that war.
Right.
And spiritualists kind of cropped up making claims that they could actually communicate with these loved ones. So people would actually flock to seances to have that opportunity to communicate once again with the person they loved, be it, a husband, brother, son, wife, daughter, what have you. And that's really where it all started. And that's also where Harry Houdini got involved with the movement as well, because he was on his way, him and his wife were on his way to England. They were on a boat, and he hated sailing. He was sick the whole way there. But he discovered that his mother had passed away. And he was very, very close to his mother. I mean, some would argue too close to his mother.
Well, look at Elvis Presley. Really, he was pretty close with his mother, too.
So, he was devastated. And they canceled the tour. He headed back home, and he ended up going to a spiritualist himself, to a seance, because he wanted to communicate with his mother one last time.
Yeah.
And during the seance, what he discovered was the message that his mother had sent him was in English, and she did not speak a word of English. And right away, that sent red flags in his mind. Add to that, in a seance, of course, it takes place in the dark, and there would be different events that would happen, spiritual events, and he quickly realized that everything that was taking place, it was a fraud, it was trickery, and that really angered him. And it angered him that people would actually profit off somebody's grief, and that became his lifelong ambition for the last half of his career, to expose these fake, fraudulent mediums.
It seems that he didn't have very good luck in exposing them all, because we still have those 1-900 psychic lines that are operating. And, as I've said before, telling fortunes for a consideration here in Canada is in violation of the Criminal Code of Canada. It's a summary conviction, but still nobody pays attention to it.
No, it's not enforced. It's not enforced at all. I mean, Harry Houdini even went to Congress to try to enact a law. And he did demonstrations. There's actually some really cool pictures of him within Congress where he's doing demonstrations of what actually takes place in a seance. But despite his efforts, now the difference today is there's nobody that's really doing seances other than for entertainment purposes, but the seances now come out of the dark and into the light. And this is where you have channeling, where you have somebody that apparently is letting a spirit, 35,000-year-old Indian spirit, speak through them. Well, how can you really disprove that?
So
very convenient.
Is there one area of the paranormal that intrigues you more than the other, and is there one area of the paranormal that really upsets you?
Well, I've always been fascinated with ghosts.
Mm-hmm.
I think ghosts are really cool. I mean, it would be really neat to experience a spiritual being if they do exist. I've never had such an experience myself, and I've always been fascinated with psychics. And as we talked about, I mean, that ties in closely with magic.
Yeah.
The area that really burns me a lot, it's kind of close to the psychic realm, but it's televangelists, and in particular, faith healers.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that is the lowest form that is extant today. I mean, anybody that money from people and claim to heal them, it's just, I find it pathetic and abhorrent. It amazes me.
But what does that tell you about society when you have these people who are actually going out to find these charlatans and hand over their money, hand over fist?
Yeah, well, I don't blame them. I blame the perpetrators themselves. People want to believe, and as a magician, I mean, I'm no smarter, or magicians aren't any smarter than anybody else in the world. But we certainly do look at the world a little bit differently, because we're trained in the art of deception. We know how to fool people, and we know how people can be fooled and how people can be deceived. And anytime say that, I could never be fooled, or I could never fall for, a deception or a fraud or what have you, just to myself, I laugh. Because anybody, including myself, under the right circumstances, under the right situation, can actually fall for deception. And if you're having a lot of problems in your life, if you've got really nobody to turn to, if you have constant pain or what have you, and here's somebody saying that, for a gift, I can heal you. And for people that do believe in, in God or what have you, or the spiritual realm, and they believe that this individual actually is able to communicate with God, and through this person, God will actually heal them. Well, I mean, that's a strong, it's a strong attraction, and I can understand why people do that. But it's so sad. It is so sad, and how these people are allowed to do what they do, it just boggles my mind.
If you could experience or have proven to you one paranormal experience, Robert, what would that be?
Oh, I think I'd really like to be able to move objects with the power of my mind. That would be cool. You could have a lot of fun with people. Actually do that. If there were no threads or wires or magnets involved, and you could actually just move anything with your mind, I think that'd be pretty awesome.
Now, I understand that you have a program called Skeptrix. Now, what exactly is that?
Skeptrix was an idea that I had a couple of years ago, and it's kind of a work in progress, and I have had the benefit of presenting it on a number of occasions.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do is I help to teach people how to either improve their critical thinking skills or teach them how to develop critical thinking skills by showing them how to think like a magician. And again, like I said, as magicians, we're not necessarily any smarter or any brighter than anybody else, but we do look at the world differently. And because we are trained in deception, we would tend to look at, let's say, a phenomenon a little bit differently. So rather than accept something that is presented to us right away, what we should do is we should critically analyze what we see, what we hear, what we experience, to see whether or not it is something, we're talking about the paranormal here in this case, whether it is something that is of a paranormal nature, or perhaps it's something that has more of a logical explanation. And since magic is a great tool to entertain people, it's also a great tool to teach people. And by utilizing some of the tools of a magician, it's just a great way of, imparting a few skill sets to show people how to think just a little bit more critically in their day-to-day lives.
We're about a month away from Halloween, and is that day seem as significant by magicians as it is for the rest of society? Does it hold a special meaning to you?
Well, it's kind of considered the holiday for magicians. The big reason being not just because there's an association with ghosts and witches and trickery and what have you, but probably the biggest reason is that's the day, ironically enough, that Harry Houdini died. It'll be 86 years ago this coming Halloween. And, Houdini's had such a strong impact on the world of magic. I mean, if you go out onto the street and just ask the average individual to name, let's say, 5 magicians, they'd be hard-pressed. But you could be guaranteed that one they would probably name would be Houdini. Even though, ironically enough, Houdini wasn't all that talented of a magician. He was a great escape artist. But his magic was, it was so-so. It was okay, but it wasn't anything great. But he's associated as being a magician.
All right. In your opinion, who is the greatest magician of all times?
Oh, boy. I don't know if I could really ever name just one, because like most fields, there are different areas. I mean, if you go back in history, Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin, a French magician, and Houdin is that Houdini got his name from. He just added an I to the end of Houdin's name to come up with Houdini. He's considered the father of modern magic. What he did was he was a magician that up to that point in time when magicians performed, they looked like wizards. They wore the robes, the flowing robes, the conical hats, and what have you. And they always held a magic wand. And again, they were, for all intents and purposes, a wizard. What Robert Houdin did was he actually came out, he designed a show where he was dressed just the way the audience was dressed, in the suits that they wore back in the 1800s. Yeah. And he had a top hat. And leading from Robert Houdin, what you saw were magicians starting to, they got rid of the robes, they started wearing the evening dress, and they would add to that typically the top hat, sometimes gloves, a walking stick, and even a cape. And Mandrake, the cartoon, that kind of made that whole image of a magician popular. Another iconic magician, I would say, would be Doug Hemming, a fellow Canadian. What he did was, when he stepped out onto the stage, he did not look anything like a magician at all. I mean, here you had this skinny kid that looked like a hippie. He had long, flowing, curly hair, mustache, skin-tight blue jeans, Converse sneakers, and a rainbow tie-dyed T-shirt. And he came out and he did magic. And, of course, his whole persona was, the wonder of magic, and it was really exciting. It was almost like he was it appeared as if he was as amazed with the magic as the audience was. So that really gave a whole different approach to magic. And what you saw is that magicians quickly stopped wearing, not all, but a number of magicians stopped wearing the tuxedos and what have you, and just started dressing a little bit more casually. And then, of course, David Copperfield, who just, presents an unbelievable theatrical performance with his shows. Very dramatic, does a lot with music, does a lot with light. I mean, it's almost like attending a rock concert when you see him perform.
Well, what about Kreskin?
So it's really difficult to say.
What about the great
Kreskin?
Kreskin,
yeah. Actually, I just saw him for the first time just a couple of years ago. He was down in Halifax here. Kreskin is an individual, and we talked about this earlier. He would not claim that he's a magician. He does claim, though, that he has an interest in magic, and it's a hobby of his. But what he does ultimately is he does magic tricks, but it's under the realm of mentalism. And he picked up, there was a gentleman before him by the name of Joseph Dunninger that was very famous in the early part of of the last century. He had a very popular radio program, and he also had a television show when television first started. And Kreskin pretty much does Joseph Dunninger's act. In fact, there was quite a tirade that Dunninger threw at Kreskin because he basically accused him of stealing his entire show. And that's up for debate because there certainly is a lot of similarities
really,
to the performances.
Yeah, I used to watch Kreskin when he had his TV show going back to the early days of television, and he used to build himself up as the man with the X-ray eyes.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, there's actually been a couple people. There's an Indian magician by the name of Kuda Bux that just died a couple of years ago, and he really made that act famous. The man with the X-ray eyes. He would there'd be coins that would be placed on his eyes that would be taped into place, and they'd take big wads of pizza dough or bread dough and attach that to cover his eye sockets, and then that would be bandaged up, and I mean his whole head would be entirely covered, and then he would do some amazing things. Whether it be driving through busy streets or discerning objects that people were holding in their hands or what have you. As amazing as it is to watch, again, bottom line, it's still a trick.
All right, Robert, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. Exo Nation, Robert Lamar is our guest. www.robertlamar.ca. That's RobertLamar.ca. And he is the gentleman behind Robert Lamar's Theater of the Mind. My name is Rob McConnell. This is The X Zone, and Robert and I will be back on the other side of this commercial break. Don't go away.
This is the X Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hello, I'm Pete Marsh. With my daughter Justina, we will be presenting the new radio show, Too Good to Be True. If something seems too good to be true, it usually is. But with the help of Justina's amazing gifts, we're going to gain insight into questions that don't yet have complete answers. Have you wondered who built Stonehenge and for what reason? Why are crop circles found in the same region as Stonehenge and elsewhere? Are crop circles a hoax, or are they created with technologies that we have little knowledge of? Who built the pyramids in Egypt and also in other countries? How and why were they built? Was the Titanic switched with the Britannic as part of a gigantic insurance fraud, or for more insidious reasons? What caused the Tunguska event when trees were flattened over an 800 square mile area in Siberia? Will the new insights be too good to be true? Well, that will depend on what you are prepared to believe. Please join us as we start on this journey together. For more information on Too Good to Be True, visit www.xzbn.net.
Dreams are our personal gateways into infinite wisdom. Don't miss shamanic counselor and indigenously trained dream decoder Sandra Corcoran's inspiring book, Shamanic Awakening Between the Dark and the Daylight. This remarkable work chronicles Sandra's 35 years of experience with diverse wisdom keepers and her initiations throughout the Americas and across the British Isles, Turkey, Greece, and Egypt. Sandy's knowledge of symbology, psychology, and myth influence her dream blog and workshops. Sandy offers private tarot readings, international journeys, a meditative CD, as well as her book, Shamanic Awakening, to encourage you as you navigate this earth walk, creating a deeper connection to yourself and all that is. Find this and more at Sandy's website, starwalkervisions.com.
Exo Nation, I guess this hour is Robert Lamar, and he makes the impossible seem possible. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He's billed as a psychological illusionist. He combines elements from the science of psychology, the art of suggestion, and the world of deception to create effects that seem like he can actually tap into the hidden thoughts or even force thoughts into the minds of his audience members. As the opening of his stage show states, be prepared to have your reality shattered as you enter Robert Lamar's Theater of the Mind. First of all, Robert, thanks very much for joining us. Always a great pleasure talking to you. What lies ahead in the world of the man who puts stuff in people's minds? Maybe we should send you to Ottawa to stand outside the Parliament buildings, and then loan you to the Americans to stand outside of the Capitol buildings.
Okay, just realize I'm a magician, not a miracle worker.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. I keep forgetting. So what are you going to be doing? Are you going to be taking your show back on the road, or are you going to be getting out there and just mesmerizing people?
Yeah, no, we have a stage show, as you mentioned, called Theater of the Mind, which we developed back in 1995. We have been presenting it ever since. We actually have 4 different shows that fall under that particular moniker, and we were all set to kind of tour with the show. That was our goal back then, and I think it was around 2001 or so I decided to step away, as I mentioned, so I could stay home with the kids.
Yeah.
Although we continued to perform, it was just I would make a day trip, but I wouldn't travel for any length of time, and that's what we're gearing up to do at this present time, and I'm so looking forward to it.
You know,
I just love.
When people talk about magic these days, you think of the big Vegas shows like Penn and Teller. Are they good for magic?
Oh, definitely. I mean, there's quite a few magicians that don't like them and feel that they're ruining magic because they expose how magic is performed.
Yeah.
But they don't understand what Penn and Teller do. Anything that Penn and Teller exposes is stuff that they've kind of created themselves, but they'll still end up fooling people because they kind of use that as a means of deception or misdirection to still create an effect. So, no, I mean, they did have Boys of Magic a number of years ago for that very reason, but no, I think they're great. Now, they're not for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people like them and some people won't, but you can say that about, with any entertainer.
Exactly. One quick question. Chris Angel, how would you rate him?
Yes.
Illusionist, magician, fraud, actor, entertainer, or all of the above?
Yes. All of the above. He's actually caused quite a stir within the magic community. He's a very polarizing figure.
Yeah.
Some people really like him, and some people don't. Hey, he's selling tickets, and people are coming out to watch him.
So there you go. Robert, you and I have to say.
Lost interest in.
You and I have to say so long for tonight because our time is up. I do want to thank you so much for joining us.
All right.
And Exo Nation.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Robert Lamar's website is www.robertlamar.ca, www.robertlamar.ca, and watch out for his Theater of the Mind coming to a city, town, venue near you. I'll be back on the other side of this commercial break at 6.5 minutes past the hour as the X-Zone continues with yours truly, Rob McConnell. Whatever you do, don't go away. We'll be right back.